marketplace is changing. There's more and more demand from consumers for organically produced food. Throughout Iowa, farmers are responding with a revitalized interest in organic production. Organic farming is as much art as science, requiring an integrated mix of mechanical, cultural, and biological practices to achieve results. Is organic farming economically feasible? Historically, most aspiring farmers learn the art of farming from their family and from their neighbors. How do you make a successful transition to organic farming?
The Iowa Organic Farming Mentor Program was initiated to link experienced organic farmers with those who would like to try organic farming to help them get off to a successful start. Most long-time organic farmers will readily admit to having made many mistakes, often expensive mistakes, when they switch to organic methods using just trial and error without having anyone to turn to for advice. This program provides a framework within which mentor organic farmers can help other farmers who want to try organic production to avoid costly mistakes and to acquire the knowledge and skills needed to get off to a good start. This is what we have been doing. We hope it can serve as a model for others.
The mentor program was accomplished through field days, conferences, and meetings, or sometimes simply by a phone call or a one-on-one farm visit.
It was hard to get information in the early years. There wasn't nearly as much literature, and it was hard to find other farmers who were interested in this. So Dave ended up spending a lot of money on long-distance phone calls, trying to find people to talk to give them ideas and help with problems. Now it seems as though there's a lot more people interested in organic farming, especially in this area, and so it's a lot easier to get the information.
There are a wide range of agricultural experiences and types of farm operations that are represented in the mentor program, such as row crops, dairy, commercial vegetable production, as well as CSA, community-supported agriculture. Field days provide an important way for farmers to learn about weed control strategies in organic farming.
This is my 21st year of farming organically, and I have a 5-year crop rotation. I start out with oats, and the next year it's hay, and then I go to soybeans, popcorn, and then back to soybeans, and then back to oats. That first year that I was so nervous planting corn, thinking about the weed pressure that I was going to have and how I was going to handle it, that I couldn't hardly stand it. In farming organically, you are going to have some weeds, and this weed seed that you do grow will be returned to the soil. If you have an active, biologically active soil that's healthy, the weed seed will decompose and convert into humus. You do some things that encourages that decomposition, and one of those things is initially is the shallow tillage.
We work in organic with the top 5 to 6 inches of the topsoil, tilling that. We try to keep a good aerobic area and try to leave the subsoil basically alone. The way that I have over the years got rid of my sod in my rotation, I go out in the fall and chisel with a straight point chisel. I chisel in the fall, and then in the spring I go in with a disc and give it just a real light disking, just enough to level it. So that's the first step in my weed control, is my shallow tillage and working with the aerobic zone in the soil, promoting that life.
This cultivator is the cultivator I use when the crops are real little. This is an old John Deere front mount cultivator that I have Bezzariti attachments on. Those spiders go alongside the row and pull the dirt away from the row and create a serrated edge on each side of the plant. Then these two things are what they call torsion weeders. And they're just a spring-loaded steel bar, and they are adjusted so they go along and rub on that serrated edge and break up the dirt in the row and knock a lot of the weeds out in the row. And in addition to this cultivator, I have another cultivator, a Littleson cultivator I put on the back of the tractor, and then that gets the weeds in between the row. So I actually run 2 cultivators at once on my initial pass.
My last cultivation, this year I used a buffalo cultivator, which is a no-till cultivator that has one large sweep that goes down between each row. This is aggressive enough that it will get the weeds that you've missed before that do have some size to them. It will get them out. Most of my crops this year, my popcorn was too big at the point where I got the cultivator to get through it. But I did have one field that I got through with the buffalo cultivator, and I could see a tremendous difference in the weed control in that field where I used that buffalo cultivator as a final cultivation. A company here in Iowa who's been in the popcorn business for years got into the organic part of popcorn. It was the first year they offered any contract for the organic popcorn. I started out with about 22 acres, and I liked what I was doing with the popcorn. The thing that I like about popcorn is you're not dealing with the bushels that you are with regular corn. So you don't have near the storage problem if you have to store it on the farm because you don't have as many bushels. It doesn't take as long to harvest. It dries down better in the field, and in most circumstances, we combine it, we put it on wagons, and as soon as we get it combined, we get a semi in. It's loaded out, and it goes directly to the company. So you don't have the drying costs, you don't have the storage costs, and I don't feel that it is as taxing on the soil because you don't have the yield. You're looking at 25 to 35 bushels to the acre, and so you don't have the nutrient requirement that you do with regular corn. And yet the bottom line is that your net profit is much or more than conventional corn.
The barley that I harvested in this field in the bottom, I will probably sell to an organic farmer for feed. Lisa is a person from over here in the Fairfield area that buys small quantities of grain from me. I sack it up and bring it over at her request, and I store the grain at my place. And she wants organic grain, and it again gives me something to do to get out of the community and a little exercise and come over here and
Stan's awfully good about bringing stuff, helping us.
I enjoy visiting with Lisa and the different things that she's got going on, and we've got different hints from her on doing different things, and it's kind of a reciprocal thing, I guess. Too, we share information and
yeah. I'm just very pleased that that Stan was willing and able to bring the sort of grains that we needed for these goats. Barley is one that's not grown very much around here, and it's particularly good for the goats. The chickens like it. It's good for them too. So Stan's a godsend for all us goat keepers who want to go organic.
With networks of farmers who are attached closely to communities like here in Fairfield, there's opportunity for niche marketing and opportunities for the conventional farmer to begin to think of new ways to niche market, niche produce, and stabilize income towards a new agriculture.
Steve Hickenbottom, one of our mentors, has farmed organically for over 20 years. Steve farms over 1,000 acres organically and has worked out some very effective methods for weed control in organic row crop production.
It's been really a bad year. A lot of conventional farmers never even got their soybeans planted yet. It's been raining all the time, and I'm amazed that Steve even got them planted. And this weed control you can see is excellent, and he's got some unique cultivation equipment. Maybe you want to tell us about that.
Basically, we want to touch on mechanical weed control today. Stan touched on the prepping the soil and stuff, and the different weed pressures you have from the tillage practices that you have. You do have a herbicide cost in organic. It's just mechanically. Instead of out of a can, you're going to go out and apply it. It takes a little more management, a little more timing, and a little more thought and planning. One thing basically that you will realize, when you see weeds in your field, you're too late. You approach weeds before you see them. You'll be out in the field and you'll flick a crust off or you look underneath it. When those weeds are in that white root stage, you want to be out there doing something. You're going to go in there and hoe, or you're going to harrow it, or you're going to whatever's going to work for you, that's how you apply it. I happen to use a hoe. I use a Henniker 6000 no-till cultivator, and I use an M&W minimum till rotary hoe. The rotary hoe has a wheel on each arm, so I get a little more penetration than you have in the old gang tile, the gang hoe, and your series of hoes that came out where you had two wheels on an oscillating wheel, your pivoting axle. And I've got a guidance system on the hitch and the no-till cultivator, and you can literally run 4 to 5 miles an hour. I have more acres to cover. I have to do it in a certain amount of length of time. Everybody's only got a certain window to get out and get the weeds killed in that thing, and you'll size yourself. You know, like a guy told me the other day, he says, you ain't going to take a 16-row planter into a 2-acre field, sweet corn patch to plant. You're not going to take a 2-row planter to a 4,000-acre cornfield to plant. I hoe it, I cultivate it, and then I go back in and I hoe it again. Your equipment and stuff will be sized for your perspective of approach. I try to get in anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on what the crop moisture is, with my hoe after I cultivate. And then basically from there on, you just monitor your weeds and whatever cultivation it takes, you do. One thing you will find is that the last cultivation that you think that you're out of the woods on, you want to bear in mind you don't know what you're going to have for crop conditions once the crop gets to the point you can't cultivate it anymore. So if you've got any doubt in your mind that you're going to have a late weed pressure infestation, you make the last cultivation trip. Most of the time, I cultivate 3 times.
Regional conferences and meetings are also ways for mentor farmers to discuss their experiences.
It had been about 88 or 89, I had a field of corn that had just spiked through the ground. And I mean just spiked through. You could, you know, at the setting sun, you drive across the road, you look down the road and you just see them. But it was time to hoe. And I took the hoe to the field and I made a round, and when you looked back, there wasn't no corn. You can see nothing. It buried it all. But, in fact, my uncle mentioned to my dad, he farms across the road, he said, your boy just killed the corn. And I thought maybe I had, but I got a hell of a way of killing the weeds, and that's what I was after. If I'm going to lose it, I just will lose it and replant it all, but it was a shot. So we hoed it. And I'm telling you, my dad told me, he says, you know, when you hoe, don't look back. So when I got the field done, and the uncle told me, he says, Dad, you told me not to look back. So I just kept going. And 2 days later, all the corn was up, and it was one of the cleaner cornfields that I had, and it made 120 bushel acre of dry bushels of white corn, which ain't sloppy, you know, especially on the organic side. So, you know, just play with it a little.
Francis Tickey is a dairy farmer in Jefferson County. He has a sustainable operation that incorporates rotational grazing, on-farm dairy production, and agroforestry.
As part of their educational tour on sustainable agriculture, the World Bank came to Iowa, and they came to our farm to see an example of sustainable agriculture, or in this case, organic farming and intensive grazing, or controlled grazing. We process our milk on the farm. Susan, my wife, and I, we milk about 50 Jersey cows, and our farm's all organic. And we produce whole milk, 2% skim milk, cream, some yogurt, and some cheeses. We also make a soft serve mix that's used in some of the local restaurants. We have a New Zealand-style parlor. It's a very simple parlor, unlike many of the American-style parlors where there are a lot of computerized equipment. The cows walk in a very simple setup, and we milk them, and they go out the door again and back into the pasture in the summer. We process about 1,400 gallons of milk a week. As far as I know, we are the only farm in Iowa that bottles milk on the farm.
But I have to say that there's a certain startup cost that's pretty crucial. We started over many years, and a lot of people come to our farm and they want to do what we do from all over the Midwest. And I always caution them that they have to do the marketing first, because you can't just start. You got to have a market developed, and so it's a building process, and you can't do it overnight. But there may be opportunities for us to work with others. We're trying to expand our product line, and every year we've been increasing by about 10 to 15 or 20% each year our number of cows and our output. And so maybe we could cooperate with some farmers and help process their products here, or other specialty cheeses.
We use controlled grazing on our farm, and some people call it intensive grazing, but what that means is moving the cows about from pasture to pasture in what we call paddocks, so we can control where the cows go at every time. After every milking, they get a fresh section of pasture, and that allows us to optimize the forage quality for the cows, as well as to optimize the regrowth of the grasses in the pasture. Most conventional dairy farms keep cows confined near the milking area, and so you can see the difference energy use-wise, that the cows, that you have to first harvest the forage for the cows, chop it, bring it up, put it into the big silos that they use, and then you have to blow it up, and then you have to bring it back down again and take it and feed it to the cows. And then after that you have to collect the manure and take it back out in the field. Whereas with controlled grazing, if you have an efficient system set up, all you have to do is open the gate after the milking. The cows go in and they stay in all day in the paddocks and graze, and they deposit their manure right on the spot. Save a lot of energy costs that way as well. Now our farm requires about 2 acres per cow. I think in a productive grazing system, in this part of the country anyway, we should be shooting more for 1 acre per cow. We put the whole farm into forages, into grasses and legumes of quite a variety, and this is helping to build the soil, as well as the fact that we are composting our manure and putting that back on the soil again.
One-on-one advice between a mentor and farmer is an important part of the mentoring process.
So over here you can see this old stand. There's a little bit of alfalfa left in here, but mostly it's grass. In this case here we have orchard grass, which and this orchard grass tends to get mature faster. You can see how headed out this orchard grass is. It should have been cut earlier. In the alfalfa, if you look, you see that it's starting to bud there. And actually the alfalfa is in about the right stage. You should cut the alfalfa maybe about 1/10 bloom. So 1/10 of the plants are showing their first blooms, and so we're really almost early with the alfalfa, but we're late with the orchard grass. That's why I really don't tend to use orchard grass, because it...
Because they come up at different times and it sets the season.
Yeah, I think that brome is, in my mind, is more compatible because it gets mature more at the same time as alfalfa does. I like to have a brome grass because brome is a sod, kind of like your lawn, only it's taller, but of course it spreads out and makes a sod throughout the whole field. And then
holds the soil better then, huh?
Yeah, exactly, especially on the side hills where it's not so bad here in the flat, but in the side hill I think it's better.
We also have water in our paddocks, so when the cows go out, they can stay out in the paddocks all day and not have to come home for water. We have a simple water system. We inject a black plastic pipe, 1 inch in diameter, throughout the paddock system, and then we connect that between every 2 paddocks with a plastic barrel that we've actually gotten for free. So it's very simple and efficient and not very expensive to put a watering system out into the paddock. We're also trying to, as much as possible, encourage native tree growth and have that available for the cows for shade. We've already planted a windbreak, and we're going to be planting some hedgerows around the paddocks to give more shade and shelter for insects and other beneficials as well, to keep the farm as diversified as possible. The windbreak we planted, we made into sort of an experiment in agroforestry. We have a whole variety of fruits and nut trees that are in there, including small berry trees for wildlife like serviceberry and buffalo berry. And only 1 row is actually a pine row, and that's white pine. And we're looking at the idea of grafting these white pine trees into Korean nut pine so that the whole windbreak could be fruit and nut trees for wildlife and human consumption. We've been seeing a lot more diversity already of various kinds of wildlife on the farm. When we first came, we couldn't hardly find an earthworm anywhere on the farm. Now there are getting to be quite a few more earthworms. And actually we're seeing more birds around, which I guess is reasonable, seeing that we have a lot more grass and nesting area for them. We've been seeing a lot of other things too. As a matter of fact, we just, the other day I saw a blue heron in the creek. So there's a lot more to life than corn and soybeans.
There is a growing interest in expanding vegetable production in Iowa. Here is an innovative model for mechanized vegetable production used in the Mentor program.
Ripplebrook Organic Growers is a partnership between Colleen Thomas and myself, I've been farming about 27 years organically. We've been here in Iowa. This is our second growing season. We farm a mixture of vegetables, field crops, and raise some livestock on about 80 acres. We're also in the process of planting perennial fruits and nuts and that kind of trees. In our system of organic vegetable farming, we form raised beds with this machine, which includes 3 subsoilers and then some hilling disc and some other discs that move the soil back and forth, followed by a roller and then a chain. I built this machine from scratch about 10 years ago. Bed forming had been used in vegetable production in California, Florida, and Texas for years and years, but when we got to organic soils, we found out the bed formers didn't work properly. So this machine has functioned very well. It allows us to form a bed in one pass. On this bed, after we've done certain practices to prevent weed growth, then we plant.
This is the Nybex unit planter. It's a precision planter that plants seeds individually.
It has a gearbox that changes the distance between the individual seed drops.
And these are the individual cups that come in different sizes that pick up each individual seed, or 2 seeds, 3 seeds. This is the unit planter. It's an International 185. It's sort of an old-timey machine. A lot of farmers used it in the past to plant beans and corn. This is a lettuce bed, lettuce that I've seeded here. It's a mixed lettuce. Here you can see the distinct rows and how tightly they're spaced. It's a little hand seeder that I use, the pinpoint seeder, and I just seed the whole bed. It's a small seeder. It has 4 cups, and here I have radishes. I forest seeded some basil here. Here I have turnips, beyond greens, perennial greens, and lettuces. These are control wheels, or depth control wheels, because we farm on beds and not all the beds are flat. The wheels grab the edge of the bed, and these give us added stability on the flat as well as on the side hills. It allows us to plant with precision and cultivate with precision, because we can only cultivate well if we plant well.
All your plants in a plug, and then you just pull them out. This is the wheel. Turns like that. Then you just put the plants in. You need to skip 2. You just count 2 and then put it here. Skip 1, put it here.
We as vegetable farmers like to meet with other vegetable farmers like Su Chu from Taiwan here, who explains how they control weeds by using knives by hand to undercut. To control weeds, we primarily mechanically cultivate with different tools, but most all the cultivation is done through either proper preparation, where we kill off weeds, or through mechanical cultivation.
These beds were pre-made several weeks in advance, and we cultivated the tops of the beds with a rotary hoe, and then came back after we had done some weed kill, and planted with our transplanter the peppers here, eggplants there. And then here's another batch of peas planted with the unit planter. And then the next bed over is planted with a Nybex, some mustards and daikon, and then green beans and more peas.
We just integrate all of our produce through these different planting methods with the transplanter or the seed planters.
Basically, we market into the Jefferson County or the surrounding 2 or 3 counties.
Because marketing is a critical component of the strategy to become an organic farmer, more and more people are becoming aware of community-supported agriculture, or CSA. CSA is one of the options for beginning organic farmers, and it's also part of the mentor program.
The whole purpose of community-supported agriculture is
to put the farmer's face on the food. The farm is like one big organism, with the farmer as the head or the brain, but all the parts, from the animals to the growing crops to all parts of the farm that even are in production. There are parts that make the body work, that make the body function. And if you neglect one, you can neglect everything. And it's important to make sure that you don't have like these fragmented parts, but that everything's moving together and working together. If you're taking things from other farms or you're bringing in nutrients from afar, you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. All of it can be grown right there on the farm, but you have to make sure you do it in rotation. You have to make sure you follow the practices that have been time tested. Getting back to that knowledge is really easy with the mentoring program. Many people still know what my grandfathers and grandmothers used to grow things in good rotations, using the right rotation, making sure that they were enriching the soil, bringing its fertility up. Part of our mission on the farm is to share with people knowledge that other folks, other important people within the organic movement have been pioneering. How to grow food sustainably, how to grow food that's nourishing and using organic methods. People like John Jeevons, who's the father or the author of biointensive farming. Other people like Walter Goldstein from the Michael Fields Institute, bringing in biodynamics and how to enliven the intelligence in the soil. It's right there in the soil. All we got to do is wake it up and let it work for us. The amount of crops we grow, vegetable-wise, are never really huge. They're enough to feed maybe 50 families throughout the season. By growing small quantities, it makes it more taskable for one person or a small group of people to do the maintenance on a day-to-day basis. This gives them much more of a feel of, this is something real, this is something not just picked up out of the store. You see people coming down all the time to receive that nourishment that they just don't get living day-to-day in a more urban setting. It's real easy for them to be part of the growing process and farming. In all our aspects of the farm, we like to make it a celebration, not just a chore. From simply just being a part of the growing process to actually just being there and celebrating the land waking up in the spring to its growing during the summer months, but then the harvest and the bounty that the earth has provided for us in such a magnificent way.
Follow me. Whither shall I follow? Whither shall I follow thee? To the greenwood, to the greenwood, to the greenwood, greenwood tree.